Hey family, well, good evening. Today we are going to can some sweet pickles. Now, how many of you have ever canned anything? Canning fruit or high acid foods is really easy. You don't need a pressure canner, which so many people are afraid of. So we're going to get at it. I'm going to show you what we need and we're going to get started. First of all, let's point you down to the table. If you have a ball book for canning, there, I haven't showed you that because there you go, ball book for canning. It has everything you need to know for preserving food. There are many books that you can buy, but I think that's one of the standard books. Last year, I did some canning. These are my watermelon pickles, and this is my last jar. So after I do some cucumbers, I have to do watermelon because my aunt used to do them when I used to visit her in the South a long time ago. Oh man, they were so good. So she set the trend, and I'm so thankful. You will also need, the ball book calls for a half a pint. What I'm going to be using are pint size. So my recipe is going to be doubled. You will need some red peppers, some green peppers. I can open that up while I'm holding this. Green peppers. You will need onions. And as I said, my recipe is doubled. So, of course, you will need some sugar. And the only thing I'm not doubling is the sugar. You will need some celery seeds, some mustard, ground mustard, and I am going to add some turmeric. You will also need, the ball book calls for white vinegar. I am going to be using lemon juice instead. All right, I'm going to start. Actually, I've cut up all my cucumbers and I'm going to show you the last one so you'll know how to do it. And my little buddy Max is down here wanting some attention. Okay, Max wanted to be fed. I don't think you've seen Max, so let me show you Max. If I can, turn the camera around. Oh, now he's going away. I guess he's camera shy. Okay, so what we need to do is, and I hope you can see, I have my one cucumber here that I'm going to show you how to cut up. You just need to take the seeds out. So what I'll do is I'll cut it in half. And don't laugh at my little cutting board. And you have to remove those seeds. Turn you over this way just a little bit. Okay, just take your knife, go around. And yes, I am saving seeds, but I have enough cucumber seeds to last me, I don't know, for years. So these will be going in my compost. And look how easy it just came out. So I'm going to put it in there. Get all those seeds out. Also, what I didn't do, you cut off both ends, the flowering end and the bottom end of your cucumber. Please make sure you do that. That is very important. And I'm going to do this side the same way. Get out those seeds. All right, de-seed it. All right, and you just chop up into little chunks. And there's no right or wrong in how you cut them. You could even do doing spears if you wanted to. And I think for my watermelon rind, I did do some spears. If you never tried those watermelon rinds, pickled, sweet pickles, you ought to try it. It is delicious. And what a good way to repurpose your food. Instead of throwing it away, use it. All right, write that right in my bowl with the rest of my pickles which are in here. Lay it down some. Cut this one up. All right, I'll put that in there. It is raining today, so it is a good day to can. I've already canned some tomatoes, and I will show you that video also. Again, my pickles lasted me all year, so it was wonderful. I didn't have to go to the store to get pickles. I love doing potato salad. And I just had them in my cabinet. All I had to do was open the jar and get them. All right. So now, set in there. And this is very cold water in here. And what the ball book calls for is 1/4 cup of salt to be sprinkled on the cucumbers and let them soak for 2 hours. And that is what we're going to do. I am going to use, I'm going to sprinkle them with some Himalayan sea salt. I think the ball book might say canning salt. Whatever you choose to use, you use it. All right, we'll bring you back in 2 hours. Also, when you put the salt on, make sure you put a cover on that mashes your cucumbers down in the water so that all the cucumbers are covered completely and they're able to soak in that water. And we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, we are back doing our sweet pickle relish. Our relish has soaked for 2 hours in cold water and the refrigerator submerged in that water with the salt. I rinsed it real good 4 or 5 times to get out the salt flavor. And now I am going to put all the ingredients in, and we will let that come to a simmer in a pan for 10 minutes. We'll let it simmer for 10 minutes. After it does that, we'll fill our canning jars and start the canning process. So we're going to add our ingredients. We'll get our lemon juice. And bring it back just a little bit. Add our peppers. every little drop out of there. Bring it a little closer here. All my ingredients will be on the table. We'll get our onions. Get up in there real good. Our red peppers. Oh, this is going to be so good. In there good. Excuse me, we get our sugar here. Just put that in there. Every little drop. And again, if you need the recipe, it is in the Ball Book of Preserving, Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving. Okay, I am going to add my seasonings. And remember, mine is doubled because I am using a pint size and not a half pint as the book calls for. Max, I'm going to put you on camera. I'm going to put you on camera, little guy. I'm going to put you up now. And something that is not in the book is the turmeric. Now, turmeric is really good for you. So there will be turmeric in my sweet relish. If I can get it to come out of the jar. All right. Put that in there. I'm going to stir that in really good. And then I will put it in the saucepan. While this is simmering, I have my jars in the water bath canner. They are sterilizing, and the tops and the caps are also in the back, and they are sterilizing. You have to wash your jars real good and then sterilize them. You can put them in the oven for, I think, 250, 275, or you can bring them to a boil. And that is what I'm going to do, and that is what I'm doing in the water bath canner. And then I can just use that water to can with. And we'll show you that stage when I get there. So I am going to put this over in the saucepan. Bring you up a little closer. Bring it down. mess. That was pretty good. What do you think? Out real good. Some celery seeds in there. Stir that up in there. You can see. All right, and I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to bring that to a simmer. And we'll be back when we get our jars out and we start canning. Okay, we are getting down to our last few minutes of our relish that's simmering in here. Ooh, nice and hot, and it smells so good. And so I will start getting out some jars so we can start the canning process. And I'm going to bring up this and see if I can tilt you down so you can see what's going on there. All right, so I am going to get the jars out. The jar lifter here, which is very important because the jars are very hot. Pot holder. And we are there. All right. And with the water bath canner, let's see if I can turn you this way. There is a rack in here because you never put your jars down on the bottom of the canner. There's a rack where you can put your jars on so that your jars don't break. So I will lift that rack up. Just rest on the side there, just like that. See that? So all my jars are nice and sterile and hot. I'm going to take one and pour the water out. I will set it over here, and I'm going to do a couple at a time. And this water bath canner holds 9 pint jars. That there. This is our funnel here. I'm just going to rinse it off a little bit. I will place that inside the jar. And these are wide mouth jars, pints, I'm sorry, wide mouth pints size. And I'm not sure if you can see them. That's a little better. Okay, so I am going to turn this off, my lid's off. I will leave my water bath canner on so that I can, it'll be nice and hot when I'm ready to stick my jars back in. Okay, so I'm going to take this cup and funnel out my used to be cucumbers. Doesn't that look good? I hope you can see it. So, according to the guide, the bulb book, we are supposed to leave a 1/2 inch quarter space at the top. And I have put too much in there, so I will have to take some out. But you judge the size by the rings here. Down here is 1 inch. Halfway is a 1/2 inch. So we are supposed to leave a 1/2 inch. And I am going to check that to make sure. And it does say it wasn't on this page, but it is a 1/2 inch. There it is, a 1/2 inch headspace in our jars. So I am going to get a spoon out. I'm pretty close, but I'm over just a little bit. And on your debubbler, there are measurements where you can check from 1 inch to a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. And that is a 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to take out just a little bit more. Okay. So in the back, I have my lids and rings. Wow. Okay, now perfect. And what I didn't do, I'll stick that back in the water. What you have to do is make sure there's nothing around your lid here to prevent your lid from sealing. And that is very important. And I did have something on it. So you just wipe it around clean. And we'll go back and get our lid out. We'll place our lid on. We'll get a ring here. We'll place that on. And it's finger tight. And this is hot, but you can see how good that looks. Doesn't that look good? It's good and hot too. So I'm going to place that back inside the canner. And we'll start our next jar. And what I didn't show you in the last one, and it's probably because I'm trying to teach and I'm not a teacher, you are supposed to make sure all your bubbles are out of the jar. And I will get that jar back out and check for bubbles. But this is why it's called a debubbler. So you go down inside your jar and you just release the bubbles that are caught down in the bottom of the jar. And I can use a little more in here. So again, I'm going to get out the bubbles. And I'm just about at a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to wipe my lid, the top of my jar, I'm sorry. I'm going to get out a ring. Lid here. I'm going to screw it on, and only finger tight. You don't over tighten it and you don't leave it real loose. And I will place that inside the canner. And I am going to use my jar lifter to get out the other one and make sure there's no bubbles inside. And I'm going to place that back inside the hot water. So again, bring you a little closer. Down here. I hope you can see that. Okay. I'm going to go in here, press everything down to make sure there's no air bubbles caught down at the bottom. And that has something to do with the pressure inside the jar. You wouldn't want the jar to break because it's pressured. The bubbles come up and try to push off the top. So again, I'm going to wipe the ring of the jar at the top. Make sure nothing's on it. I'm going to get out a lid. A ring. And I'm going to place that in the canner. So the process continues. I'll do one more so that you can see. See that you too can do this. The store shelves are becoming mighty empty these days. And it's so nice to say I grew these cucumbers. I grew the green peppers that I put in them. And a couple of the onions that I put in here, I also grew. So I'm going to get out the bubbles. I'm going to check my headspace, and I can bring that up just a little bit. And that was a little bit too much. And you use the hot water canner for high acid foods. I probably said that before, such as your fruits. And this has all that lemon juice in it, so it has a lot of acid. So I would put it in the hot water canner. Okay, I am going to get out my ring and my lid. Screw that on, just finger tight, and I'm going to set it in my canner. Okay, I will bring you back when I finish this process in just a second. Okay, family, I am putting my last jar in the water bath canner. I was able to fill 8 jars. Bring you here so you can see this. Down there. Turn you right there. And you can see the 8 jars in there. So I am going to set it down inside the canner. Set down inside there. And it has to come over the top of the cans. At least an inch or 2. I have it way above which is fine. It's not going to hurt it. So this has to process 10 minutes for the half a pint. So because I doubled it, it's a pint, I will do it for 20 minutes. And I'll bring you back when it's finished and we can pull the product, the relish out of the water bath canner. I'm going to cover it up. Sorry for the noise. Set it on top of there. And our relish is on the way to being canned. Our pickle relish, our canned sweet pickle relish is finished. I'm going to open up the pot. You always turn the lid away from you. You see all that steam rising up in the back? It is hot, believe me. I'm going to lift it up out of the canner. So you can see that. I'm going to take my jars and set them over here on the side. That looks so good. I wish you could smell it. It smells good too. And there are my 8 jars. You see that? Now, the book recommends letting them stand for 12, I think it said from 12 to 16 hours or 12 to 24 hours. You just let them sit that because you want to make sure that they really seal good. You will hear this little popping sound, and that's just the cans, the lid sealing on there. And to make sure they seal, they said let them stand, let them sit there at least 12 hours so that they can finish sealing and you won't be interrupting that sealing process. So that's what I'll do. I'll let them stand there and they'll seal. I'll take off the lids. I'll clean around the bands and the jar of the mouth, and then I will set them in my cabinet. Now you may be saying, okay, you always give us an object lesson. So my object lesson for you today is we don't know what's happening in this world. When you go to the stores, the shelves are empty. Something is happening. There was an article in, I think it was the New York Times, that said, and I read this online, that the stores are stockpiling food because they know something is coming up so that they can charge you more for foods. Now, I'm not trying to make you afraid. We must have faith in God. He will take care of us, but he does give us a brain to think. In the Bible, Joseph interpreted the dream of Pharaoh, and you may know this. There's a verse where it says, and in the 7 years, and this is found in Genesis 41, 47, and 48. And in the 7 years of plenteous, in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field, which was round about every city. He laid up the same. So when the time came of famine, Joseph, through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, was able to have food ready for the land and for those people round about the land to come and gather food. Because he had put away food. He was instructed by the Lord. The Lord gave him the interpretation of the dream, and he says that in the Bible. So he laid up food in the 20th year. So we just use our common sense. Something is happening. Maybe I won't be able to get to the stores for a few months. At least I'll have some canned food put away for me and for someone else who might need it. So that's my object lesson from the Bible, from the Hillside Homestead. Make it a wonderful, wonderful evening. God bless you, and I'll see you the next time.